It was a Tuesday morning, the kind of day that felt like it was dragging its feet. The sky was overcast, and the faint drizzle outside mirrored my mood. I was sitting in a small, dimly lit office, staring at a stack of papers that seemed to grow taller every time I blinked. The air smelled faintly of stale coffee and printer ink. I sighed, tapping my pen against the desk, wondering how I'd gotten myself into this situation. "Just sign here, here, and here," the man across from me said, his voice calm and reassuring. He was middle-aged, with a neatly trimmed beard and glasses that reflected the fluorescent light. His name was Mr. Grayson, and he was the lawyer handling the estate of my late uncle, a man I barely knew. I hadn't seen Uncle Harold in over a decade. He was the kind of relative who showed up at family gatherings with eccentric stories and a twinkle in his eye, but he always seemed to disappear just as quickly as he arrived. When I got the call that he had passed away and left me something in his will, I was shocked. I didn't even know he remembered my name. "What exactly am I signing?" I asked, squinting at the dense legal jargon on the pages in front of me. Mr. Grayson smiled, a practiced, professional smile. "Standard inheritance paperwork. Your uncle left you a property, and this just transfers the ownership to you. It's a bit of a process, but once it's done, you'll be the proud owner of a charming little house in the countryside." I hesitated. Something about the way he said "charming little house" made me uneasy. But then again, what did I have to lose? I was a 28-year-old freelance graphic designer living in a cramped apartment in the city. The idea of owning property, even if it was in the middle of nowhere, was tempting. "All right," I said finally. I signed my name on the dotted lines, one after the other, until the stack of papers was complete. Mr. Grayson gathered them up with a satisfied nod. "Congratulations," he said. "You're now the owner of Willowbrook Cottage." The drive to Willowbrook Cottage took me 3 hours, the city gradually giving way to rolling hills and dense forests. The GPS led me down a narrow, winding road, and just when I thought I was lost, I saw it. A small, ivy-covered house nestled in a clearing. It looked like something out of a fairy tale, with its stone walls and sloping roof. But as I got closer, I noticed the peeling paint, the overgrown garden, and the faint smell of damp wood. "Charming little house, huh?" I muttered to myself, stepping out of the car. The key Mr. Grayson had given me fit perfectly into the lock, and the door creaked open to reveal a dusty, dimly lit interior. The air inside was heavy, and the floorboards groaned under my weight as I stepped inside. The furniture was old but well preserved, covered in white sheets that made the place look like a ghostly museum. I wandered through the rooms, my footsteps echoing in the silence. The living room had a large fireplace, the kitchen was quaint but functional, and the bedroom upstairs had a window that overlooked the forest. It was peaceful in a way, but there was something off. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. As I explored, I noticed a small door tucked away in the corner of the bedroom. It was barely noticeable, its handle rusted and its edges warped with age. Curious, I tried to open it, but it was stuck. I pulled harder, and with a loud creak, it gave way. Behind the door was a narrow staircase leading down into darkness. My heart raced as I fumbled for my phone, using its flashlight to illuminate the steps. The air grew colder as I descended, and the smell of damp earth grew stronger. At the bottom of the stairs was a small, stone-walled room. In the center of the room was a pedestal, and on top of it was a book. It was an old leather-bound book, its cover embossed with strange symbols that seemed to shift and change as I looked at them. I reached out to touch it, and the moment my fingers brushed against the cover, a jolt of energy shot through me. I stumbled back, my breath catching in my throat. "What the hell?" I whispered. I opened the book, my hands trembling. The pages were filled with handwritten text in a language I didn't recognize, but as I flipped through them, the words began to change, shifting into English before my eyes. The first line read, "By signing this contract, you have agreed to serve as the keeper of the veil." My stomach dropped. I flipped back to the front of the book, and there on the first page was my signature. It was the same signature I had put on the paperwork in Mr. Grayson's office. But how? I hadn't signed this book. I hadn't even known it existed. I kept reading, my heart pounding in my chest. The book explained that the veil was a barrier between our world and the world of spirits, and the keeper's role was to maintain that barrier, ensuring that the spirits didn't cross over into our world. It sounded like something out of a fantasy novel, but the more I read, the more I realized it was real. The book also warned that breaking the contract was impossible. Once signed, the keeper was bound for life. The only way out was to find a successor, but that required convincing someone else to sign the contract willingly, something that seemed nearly impossible given the circumstances. I spent the next few days in a daze, trying to come to terms with what I had gotten myself into. The cottage, which had seemed so peaceful at first, now felt like a prison. Every creak of the floorboards, every gust of wind outside made me jump. I started seeing things out of the corner of my eye. Shadows that moved when they shouldn't, figures that disappeared when I turned to look. One night, as I lay in bed, I heard a faint whispering coming from the staircase. I tried to ignore it, but the sound grew louder, more insistent. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed the book and descended into the basement. The room was different now. The walls were lined with glowing symbols, and the air was thick with energy. In the center of the room stood a figure, a tall, shadowy being with glowing eyes. It spoke in a voice that echoed in my mind. "Keeper," it said. "The veil is weakening. You must act." "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice shaking. "The spirits grow restless. They seek to cross over. You must perform the ritual to strengthen the veil." The book had mentioned a ritual, but I hadn't paid much attention to it. Now I flipped through the pages frantically, searching for